Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, June 21st, 2024. My name is John Pieranunzi, and this is the opening swing. Let's begin today, as we always do, with our news. Europe is down a little over 0.5% today. They got great British retail sales and several PMIs. Purchasing Managers Index from France, Germany, the Euro area, and Great Britain. Coming into the US hours, we do not have a 8:30 news driver, but we have the US PMIs at 9:45, the PMI composite. We also have the existing home sales at 10 a.m. as well as leading indicators. Nat gas report at 10:30 and the Baker Hughes rig count at 1. Also today is quad witching, which can sometimes lead to volatility or kind of random market movement as pretty much everything expires. But let's go on to our charts, and we'll begin with our weekly chart of the S&Ps because today is Friday, so we will be closing the week. And the big question for me when I look at the weekly chart today is, are we going to close this week? Are we going to settle this week above the prior week's range? We have the prior week's high sitting right at about 55.20, and so for me, that's really the question when I look at this chart. Do we hold above 55.20 to close, or do we push below? Quickly looking at the daily here. On our daily, here's our 55.20s right here, which we were kind of levitating above. So what's happening here in the daily? Let me see, what drawings do I have on here? We'll get rid of those. And so with those two lines, what I kind of wanted to illustrate is we had a very similar situation happening in this area as we did in our lower balance with the prior expiration, where we had the 50, I believe it was a 54s or 5400 to 5449. We had a real key range that the market was trading in, and then we had the test higher, break lower, and then we began to trend. So that is one possibility for what we may be beginning to see out of the daily chart here. Yesterday, I mean, I was pretty bullish yesterday. I was very wrong about that for the most part. We broke below the prior day's range and extended. I didn't see that. I didn't expect that. So that was just I could have done better, but that's how it goes. But anyway, so today instead, or what we got instead, was this release lower below the prior day's range. And today, so I'm open to that possibility of that continuing. I'm also open to the possibility of holding the low based on where we are in the structure. Let's bring up another chart to discuss that a little better. We're going to go to the TPO chart. Let me find that one. Okay, so, and I'll get the epic pen here. So the area I had drawn was right here, basically around the 40s to 60s, ballpark that area. We dropped below that and we took out two of the 5 single prints remaining. Two of the 5 single prints remaining from 613. And right around here, we'll draw, this is our prior week's high, our 20s region. So what we can take from this TPO chart, the important thing that we can take here is that, like I said yesterday, we were in this balance. We had impulsed higher, and then we kind of held this balance. We tested above and we broke below. And the key feature that we have today remaining is this is this area of single prints at the 57.75s. This is a double distribution profile that we've put in, and we have this key area, our singles, and then we have our low to our excess region below, which is really like the 23s to 30 region. There's a zone there if you're a convergent member. But so coming into the day with this, there are basically three big possibilities I'm looking for today. Like I said, we could either we could settle the week in here, maybe test higher, maybe test lower, but settle the week within this area, or we could break lower, as I said, and settle the week below the prior week's low, or we could break higher and settle above these singles. Those are the three big possibilities for today. You might say, hey, it sounds pretty obvious that one of those three things will happen. It is totally obvious that one of those three things will happen. But for me, it's very important to kind of categorize like what the market may do, and then to have a plan for each one of those things. Really, the most important thing is to figure out which one's happening. A lot of the times when traders run into problems, it's like maybe it's pretty easy to identify this, but then they don't take the time to, or realize that they should be taking the time to figure out which one's happening first before you start to trade. But anyway, let's go on to a trigger chart and plan for some more specific price action. Here's our 8 box. Let's discuss some key areas, which we kind of went over already because they're fairly clear today. So below us, we have this area, which I kind of highlighted, which is the excess below the prior day's range down to the prior week's high. And we'll really take it the whole way down to these singles, the 55s. Get rid of that. So really this area from the prior week's high, 15s up to around 30s, that whole area below the prior day's low. Then we have our area of single prints around the 57s here. And look at the reasonably balanced overnight profile. Above, we have the all-time high, which is the 75 area. The 88s, which was the overnight high, and then Century. Below, we have the prior week's VPOC and the Century figure. And then below that, we just sort of have more one-off kind of landmarks. We have a naked VPOC from 614, and we have the top of the gap from 613 as well, partialed. And below that, obviously, is our gap area. This is our A2 vola down, so I'm not going to map out anything beyond this. So let's think about what we can get today. So I'm not going to attack what's in here, what's in this area too much. I'm just going to say that I'll just give our bullish LIS, which is the 57 singles. That is our bullish LIS right here. Let's just draw this with a better line here. Bullish LIS, and then we'll have our bearish LIS right here. So the very basic plan to just be aware of is if I see the market push higher and push into these 57s, and then in any way, shape, or form be able to hold the mid or the VPOC of this area on pullbacks and then beat the prior high. If I can see us test and accept this area and push higher, then I'll be looking for tests of the all-time high and potentially the 88s on the way up if we get excursion out of this area that starts to push. If we get excursion below, obviously, this area, I'll be looking for tests of the singles, and then this would be my key test area, the century figure prior week's VPOC on the way down. I'll note, of course, as we always do in a bull market, that tagging the prior week's VPOC, especially when it might happen, if it happens very early in the session, this could be an area where the buyers kind of dig in and we revert higher back out of range. If we find support here and revert higher and we get back into this range, my target will be this area, the center of mass, basically the 40s to the 50s region. So basically the thing is, if we test below and revert back into this area, I'll be looking for longs back into this area. If we test below and we cannot recover this region, then I'm looking for continued excursion lower, similarly to yesterday. And by the same token, same thing above. If we test, I'll get rid of some of these. Let's do it like this. If we get a push higher into this area, then obviously we're going to be looking for one of two things. We could fail lower back into this area, and we could even continue, or we could continue higher from here, in which case, like I said, the next key target area would be, 70s are a minor HVN, but the all-time high put in yesterday, 75 area, is the key region that I would be looking at to target if we are able to hold above the 57s, which are our singles. So 57s on the upper end, 20s to 30s on the lower end. What happens if we just stay in between all of this, which is a very legitimate concern because it's quadruple witching. If we stay in between this area, I will probably be looking more to trade crude if we just stick in this area and don't really do anything. Sometimes when this happens, there could be a few good initial trades, fading edges, like fading an initial test to revert to the other side. That could be a potential opportunity. If that happens often, it will happen earlier in the day, in my experience. But if we're unable to get a test and we just kind of hang out in there and price action kind of compresses, I'll probably stay out of the ES. But so those are my key plans here. It's all revolving around these two areas. Our 50 to 57s on the top. Key is the single prints, and yesterday's low on the bottom. If we move outside of these areas, the 75s all-time high is the key target. Below, we have these singles at 15.5, but then the key target is the century to 05 region right here. So these are the key tests. Keep in mind, like I said, we're in a bull market, so any tests lower are liable to see this kind of action. It could also test lower to the naked VPOC depending on how much kind of volatility we get, although 2 vola down is pretty far. If we get down that far, then it becomes a lot less likely unless we get a quick reversion back above century that kind of has a lot of momentum to carry us back up to the 20s. That's a possibility. But really, like I said, if we break below yesterday's low and we start to move lower, then we'd kind of be in line with the daily trend, which has been shifting lower. But like I said, very key areas here. Prior week's high. This could be a battle zone. That's also something else I'll flag as a possibility. Is we could test higher, or maybe not even test, fall into this area, and then we could see the choppy nothing scenario happen below the prior day's low. Between about 90s to 20s could be where we chop. If we get a very quick test and repricing, this could be where the chop happens, so be aware of that. But anyway, that's what I got for you. I think it's reasonably complete today because, we have some pretty clear auction landmarks that we can trade around. or at least be aware of where the trades could be, and that would be basically our singles to yesterday's low, and then we know the areas outside of them that we'll be looking to target if we move into price discovery. If we don't move into price discovery, then we'll just chop in here. So those are basically the kind of like pretty cut and dry ideas I have for today, all revolving around these key areas. So I hope that is helpful to I hope that's helpful to you guys out there. I'm going to wrap it up here before I get too long, but thanks everybody for watching, and I hope you're having a great day. I hope your great day continues. I hope you can improve your trading somehow today, and most of all, I hope that you can make someone else smile, because that is always the biggest win that we can each have. Have a great day, and I'll see you all on Monday. Bye-bye.